Once again, it's on. Back at you one more again, Real Kids TV in the house like kitchen sinks. I'm gonna have to apologize for the flare, the glare, whatever you might want to call it. The sun is shining, definitely. It's over 80 degrees in Lexington, Kentucky today. But nevertheless, the show must go on. Now, before we get into this afternoon's story, if you will, understand that I'm a self-proclaimed Mr. 30 Minutes or better. Meaning that anytime I drop a story, it's guaranteed to be 30 minutes or better. So if you're on your way to work, you're at work, you don't feel like being there, as we so often don't. You're on your way home from work, you need to laugh, you need to cry. Perhaps you're trying to lay down and take a nap. Or you're trying to go to sleep at night, depending on whatever time you're listening to or viewing this video. Or you're just in the mood for a good old-fashioned true, keyword being true, penitentiary / life experience / life story. This is the channel for you. If you like your 8, 12, 15-minute videos, absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But at Real Kids TV, it's 30 minutes or better. So with all that being said and wrapped up into one big old nutshell or shell of a nut, pause, double pause, triple pause, guess what? There is a message. You know, so oftentimes, man, I hear about people talking about sibling rivalries. You know, siblings that just never really got along from the time they were kids all the way up until adulthood. Had a situation, man. Real cool with some twins, man. Now, I'm particularly cool with one of the twins. You got Kurt and you got Curtis. I'm really cool with Curtis, but I know Kurt just as well. The two of those individuals, to say the least, never really quite seen eye to eye. It seems as though Kurt was a little bit jealous of Curtis. Now, I'm not saying that that's necessarily the situation, but the few times that I did speak with Curtis about it, he always felt as though his brother was jealous of him. Over the years, they had many instances and many situations, if you will, in which they just didn't speak. Maybe 2 or 3 months will go past, sometimes 6 months, and the two would come together and start speaking again. But they never really had that camaraderie, that close relationship that one would think that a brother should have, or siblings rather. But in this particular case, they were twins, almost identical twins. Now I could tell them apart because you had one that was a little taller. Like, I've been around both of them for many, many years. Now, the situation that occurred, Curtis and I, we've always maintained a friendship from the time that we were, I don't know, 11, 12 years old, all the way until now. Had a situation that had popped off at the house. Now, when I say it's at the house, it was at Curtis's house. Kurt came over. Everything was cool. Kurt would often come over, and whenever Curtis wasn't there, he would just be in the house or whatever, just chilling or whatever, playing the game, or he might have a female, he might have company over, things of that magnitude. We're at the house one night. Kurt is in the room, and he has a lady friend. He invites her over. They're in the room, not doing anything. They're just in the room, conversating. And all of a sudden, we just hear this loud screaming. Stop, get off me, let me go, help, 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 let me go. I'm trying to leave me alone, help, help, help. Like frantic screaming, if you will. I'm looking at Curtis. Curtis is looking at me. What's going on, man? So initially, we kind of not necessarily ignore it, but it's kind of like we were in a state of shock. We didn't know what was going on. We continue to hear the screaming. We go to the door. The door is locked. Knocking on the door. Hey, man, what's going on, bro? What's going on? Help, get him off me. He's crazy. Get him off me. I'm trying to leave. He won't let me leave. Hey, man, let her out. Man, let her go. Now, Kurt is more prone and used to this sort of I guess his behavior. Now, when I say Kurt, actually, let's rewind that. Curtis is more prone and used to this sort of behavior from his brother Kurt. I'm not. Here I am in a situation though. Okay, although I am at your house, this is somebody. This is a lady that's screaming like, "Let me go." We're knocking on the door. We trying to get in the door. Kurt won't open the door. The screaming becomes louder and louder. It's quite obvious that she's in danger. She's fearing for her safety. We end up busting the door open. Boom, we bust the door open. He's kind of holding her down. He's not trying to justify what he's doing. She's trying to leave. He wants to talk to her. Kurt is trying to talk to her. She's trying to leave. All her clothes was intact. He wasn't trying to do anything sexual or anything of that magnitude to her. But at the same time, when a woman says no and she wants to leave, you let her go. There is no, nah, I'm going to hold you back and I'm going to talk to you and you're going to stay here and listen to me. No, no. When she says no and she's trying to leave and walk out, you let her go. We come into the room. We trying to pull him off. She's frantically runs out of the room. She runs out of the room. She runs out of the house or whatnot. And at this point, Kurt and Curtis begin to argue. Man, how you gonna have this girl in the room trapped, man? This is my house, man. You could get me involved. I am involved because I'm here. And so Kurt's, no, man, bro, it wasn't even like that, man. I was just trying to talk to her, man. She was trying to leave and we was having a conversation and so the two was going back and forth. I had walked to the living room. When I walked to the living room, I was just like, you know what, man, I'm not in this situation. This is between two brothers. I'm already used to them not really too much getting along over the years anyway. So I just kind of, minding my own business. Being that they were in the back of the room, in the back of the house, rather, it ended up coming to the front of the house in the living room where I was at. They're both going back and forth, as I mentioned. They're just arguing and arguing and arguing. This came up, that came up. You owe me this type of money. Okay, well, I did this for you and you never paid me back. I'm talking about they was bringing up things from childhood. I'm sure that you all that have siblings and not necessarily have the best relationships with your brother and sister, I'm sure that you quite understand. Got louder. Neighbors heard. We're in an apartment. Next thing you know, the infamous knock at the door. Police. Open the door. Police show up. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody gets arrested. We got a call from the neighbors, and they played it off. Oh yeah, we just playing a video game, man. Ain't no problems. Ain't no, I'm over at my brother's house, man, and everything's good. Everything is, there's no problems whatsoever, officer. Got a cool officer. Officer, he wasn't trying to cause any trouble. He just responded to a call to make sure everything is good, everything is straight. After about 10 minutes or so, the officer leaves. We think that everything is cool. Once the officer leaves, Kurt gives the officers time to, kind of pull out of the parking lot or what have you. Then he leaves. Once he leaves, Curtis and I, we just sitting there, we playing the game. Like, man, your brother's kind of, and I told you about him, man. I told you, man. He got a problem, man. He got an anger issue. And let me paint the picture as far so you all know exactly what these brothers look like. Kurt got to be weighing in at every bit of 260. Big dude. Been to the joint 6-7 years. Hadn't been in trouble in a while, but he had done time. He was already a big dude before he went in. Lifted weights the entire time. Then when he came home from prison, he continued to lift weights. Bald head dude, kind of dark skin. Had golds at the top of his. He probably had like 6 or 7 golds at the top. So he's about 260, just a big dude, man. I want to say that these twins were about 5'11". I want to say both of them were about 5'11". Between 5'11 and 6 foot, roughly. I would go out on a limb and say they were 5'11". We had Curtis, who pretty much looked like his brother. They were twins, but he didn't have the golds. He had a bald head. He was slightly lighter in complexion. But it's crazy because they were twins. But uh, I want to say that Curtis may have weighed 215, 220, 225. He had been in the weight pile in the gym just as well, so he lifted weights or whatever. So it was just a vast difference as far as the size between the two. But one thing for certain, two things for sure, they were both 5'11", respectively. And so, as I mentioned, Kurt ended up leaving. We're in the house, we're playing the game, we're discussing the matters or what have you. The next thing you know, hear another knock at the door. Who is that? You expecting somebody? Nah, man, I don't know who it is. Come to the door. We got the peephole. In an apartment now, so you got the peephole. Look out the peephole. Kurt then came back. Open the door. What's up, man? Bro, I need to get my vest. He had a vest. See, him and his brother, they would often umpire baseball games and referee football games. He had a vest, which is known as a chest protector. Umpiring equipment for you all that are familiar with baseball. I need to get my vest, bro. Let me get that vest. So Curtis is like, man, no problem. He goes back in the room. He's looking for the vest. I'm sitting there. I'm not really saying too much to Kurt. Kurt is not really saying too much to me. I really think that he feels some type of way, and he has a sort of a problem with me because I intervened and helped break up the situation earlier that occurred. But at the same time, just think if I didn't, just think if we didn't, because I was more of the initiator, being that I hadn't seen it on a regular basis like his brother Curtis had. We're not really saying much to each other. It's about 15 minutes. It was obvious that Curtis couldn't find the chest protector. It's like, bro, I've been looking everywhere, man. I don't see it. I don't see it nowhere, man. Uh, I might have to just get you another one, man. Doesn't sit well with Kurt at all. What you mean you're gonna have to give me another? Anybody that knows, once again, that umpiring equipment is far from cheap. It's not cheap whatsoever. Kurt had a couple games to umpire the next day, but he doesn't have his vest. He needs that chest protector. Start to argue once again about the chest protector. Every time I loan you something, man, something always comes up missing, man, and you ain't got no money to go buy no chest protector. What do you mean I gotta wait till Friday till you get paid? Man, I need this chest protector to umpire these games tomorrow. They going back and forth. Once again, the money that Curtis feels as though Kurt owes him, it comes up. Here we go again. It's moderate as far as sound initially, and it gets louder and louder. They're about to call the police again, man. I'm gonna have to get up out of here, man. Although I know that I haven't done anything, I'm not doing anything illegal, I don't have anything illegal on me. It's still the simple fact that I'm there. They get to yelling and screaming. Curtis walks back to the room, but then he comes back maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes later. Look, bro, I got X amount of dollars for you, man. This is what I got. I'm going to give you the rest of it Friday. Kurt wasn't trying to hear that. Kurt's furious about this chest protector. The argument continues, it pursues, and Curtis turns his head. I never will forget there was a pit bull. Curtis had a pit bull, and he was in the cage. And he was just barking, just loud. He was going crazy in the cage. Curtis turns his head to kind of tend to the dog. Like, hey, man, chill out, man, Next thing you know, boom! Curtis takes off. Kurt, rather, takes off on Curtis. Hits him in the back of the head. Now, Curtis was a bald head brother. Didn't have any hair. So when he hit him in the back of the head, I guess that really wouldn't make too much of a difference. But nevertheless, he hits him in the back of the head. Boom. He hits him. He kind of turns around. When he turns around, because he's trying to fight back, but his equilibrium is he's thrown way off. He just got hit. I can't believe what I'm seeing. Kurt hits him another couple times. Boom. Boom. I step in. I'm trying to break it up. Kurt's trying to fight me. Yeah, you can get some too. You can get some too. Takes his shirt off. Matter of fact, I dust you and your whole crew off. What you want to do? You think you tough? You can get me too. So now I'm looking at Kurt, but I'm also looking at Curtis Curtis is messed around. Like his whole head, like he's messed around. He's slumped over the. Basically, he if it wasn't for the chair that was holding him up, there was like a little like ottoman that was right there, if you will. He would have been all the way on the ground. But he's visibly shaken up. He's dazed. I'm trying to tell Kurt, like, look, bro, dog, you put your hands on your brother, man, and you hit him when he wasn't even looking. I do you like that. Now, you ain't never gonna do me like that. Cause I ain't never gonna turn my back on you like that, man. You hit your brother like that, man. So him and I, we going through it. We kind of going back and forth, but it never really came to blows. I thought that it was about to, especially when he took his shirt off and he said, "Man, I dust you and your whole crew off." See, there's a backstory behind that. He never really liked the people that I hung around with, and a couple of people that he hung around with. It was kind of like a rivalry between the two cliques, between the two crews. But nothing ever really, it might have been a little fist fight here and there, a couple skirmishes, arguments, or whatnot. But that's as serious as it actually got. It's loud. I guess at this particular time, Kurt, his right frame of mind, I don't necessarily want to say if he has a right frame of mind, but he started to think like, oh man, police probably end up coming back. He ends up leaving. He leaves, man. I'm tending to Curtis. Hey, bro, you all right? He's shaking up, man. Like he's like really, really dazed. There's no blood or anything, but he's like, I just need to lay down, man. I'm dizzy. I can't walk. I'm messed around. Now, mind you, man, Kurt is a big dude. Yeah, 5'11 is not exactly that tall in stature. I think 5'11 is the tallest in the world. The world, Craig. But he's weighing in at 260, 265. Man, this dude is a gorilla, man, a monster, man. See Damon on Friday? Introduce me to your friend, Craig. Yeah, that part. Look like him. Just a big, big dude, man. So just imagine he hits him and he's not even looking. Boom, hits him in the back of the head, man. Then hits him a couple more times. Dude is out of it. I'm like, oh man, we're gonna have to call, 911. We're gonna have to call, he's out of it. Call 911. Get an ambulance. Give him the address. The ambulance comes. So as the ambulance is coming, they come through or what have you. They come inside. They're tending to him. The police is being called as well. I never called the police. Never called the police the first time, and I never called them again. I don't know if it was the ruckus. I don't know if it was because the ambulance had been called and they just automatically responded. I don't know the protocol for police arriving on the scene. Nevertheless, police was on the scene. So they're tending to him. They're asking me what happened. Man, I don't know what happened. Come on, sir. You have to know something. Did you do it? I do what? I don't know what happened. I just showed up. He's a friend of mine. I just showed up. I seen that he wasn't in the best frame of mind, state of mind, or what have you. And I called 911 as far as the ambulance. I don't know what happened. They're attempting to ask Curtis what happened. He's not, even amongst, despite what his brother did to him, he's still not saying anything. Oh man, I fell and I hit my head. Never mentioning his twin brother Kurt. Not one time. They continue to question me. Listen, man, I don't know nothing. I don't know nothing. It becomes obvious that they're going to have to take him to the hospital. He's not coherent. He's not fully coherent. He's just not, his vitals is not all the way there. They're having to take him to the hospital. They're taking him to the hospital when they put him on the little bed or whatever. I was going to say stretcher, but the little bed that they put you on. A 22 falls out of his pocket. 22 falls out of his pocket. And I'm looking and I'm like, I'm trying to distract the police. One of the officers seen it. I didn't even know. I had no knowledge, no recollection that he had this 22 on. Absolutely none. I didn't even know that I was in a vicinity. I didn't even know that I was in a house in which there was a 22 or any other weapon that was present. Absolutely no clue. The officer sees it. He goes over, picks it up, has his gloves on or what have you. He picks it up. They proceed to take Curtis to the ambulance on the third floor. The They end up taking him to the ambulance. Gets in the ambulance to take him to the hospital. When they take him to the hospital, he has a aneurysm. Has an aneurysm, a brain aneurysm, and they ended up keeping him for maybe 3 or 4 days. He stays in the hospital 3 or 4 days. He's thinking that he's gonna go home. As he's leaving the hospital, there's a warrant for his arrest. Felon in possession of a handgun. Felon in possession of a handgun. See, when that officer picked that gun up, he ran Curtis's information, saying that he was a convicted felon. Curtis had a previous felony in which he was still on probation for. He was going to be on probation for 5 years. He had been on probation for like 4 years and 9 months. The probation was set to expire. He was on probation for non-support, flagrant non-support, child support. Anytime you get over $1,000 in the rear, they'll hit you with flagrant non-support, or they have the option of hitting you and charging you with flagrant non-support, child support. Far from a deadbeat, he loved his kids to death. Curtis had battled some medical issues in the past, so he got sick. And when he got sick, he was unable to work, and he fell behind on his child support. As I mentioned, the courts caught wind of it, charged him with flagrant non-support. Instantly, he pleads guilty. He's a convicted felon. Has a year on the shelf, meaning that if they violate his probation, he has to go and do a year. Never had any criminal charges before besides traffic tickets or things of that nature. Never had any trouble or issues with the law whatsoever. Takes him to jail. Felon in possession of a handgun. And there's a difference. You got felon in possession of a firearm, which carries 1 to 5. Rifle, something like that. But a handgun, 5 to 10. That's like double, triple jeopardy. Think about it. If you're not a felon and you get caught with a handgun, right? You're not a felon. As long as that handgun is not tied to anything violent or any, situation in which somebody was unalive, you don't have a permit for it, you don't have a license, it's just a fine. Most of the time, they're not even going to arrest you for something like that. May carry 6 months, no more than a year in the county jail at the absolute worst. Typically, it's just going to be a fine. But if you're a felon, and it carries 5 to 10. That's just for the charge. You have what's known as a habitual offender, PFO, persistent felony offender. It's a sentence enhancement. So let me break it down to you. If you're facing 5 to 10 already for being a felon in possession of a handgun, little 22. The PFO, which is the sentence enhancement, once again, it will enhance the time that you're facing from 5 to 10 to 10 to 20 over a small 22. Well, come on, kids. He shouldn't have. He is a felon. He shouldn't. You're right. Shouldn't have had it in his possession, but he did. Goes to jail. We're trying to get the bond money and everything raised for him. There's no bail bondsmen here. There's no automatic 10% here. So if your bond is $30,000, your bond is $30,000, unless the judge decides that he or she wants to lower your bond. We're doing everything we can do to get the bail money together. I think his bond ended up being like $7,500. We get the money together, we go down to get him out. There's a hold on him. There's a probation hold on him. His probation officer had put a hold on him because he had gotten arrested. Although he hadn't been convicted, a probation or parole officer has the authority, the discretion, if you will, to place a hold on you, even though you haven't been convicted yet. They placed a hold on him, couldn't get him out of jail. He ends up sitting in jail for another 8 or 9 months. Ends up pleading guilty. They give him 5 years. But he also has this other year that he has left for the child support. So he ends up with a total of 6 years. 6-year sentence in Kentucky, you do 14 months. before you see the parole board have an opportunity to get out. Well, they take you up for parole 2 months early, so you do 12 months instead of 14. All that time that he had done in the county actually ended up helping him, because once he goes up for parole, they see that he didn't have much of a criminal history. They let him go, gave him parole. He comes home. He ends up doing maybe, like I said, about a year in the county jail. He ends up coming home. This entire time, him and his twin brother hadn't spoken whatsoever. Curtis is kind of bitter about this situation because he feels as though if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even be in this situation. Secondly, their father passed away. They had two other brothers just as well. They were all kind of like close in age. They had two other brothers. The father passed away unexpectedly. Curtis wasn't able to go to the funeral. It's another thing about going to jail, man. In Kentucky, anyway. I don't know how it is in other states. You in jail, you in penitentiary, and somebody passes away. Guess what? You're not going to the funeral. It's just not gonna happen. He was unable to go see his father. The mother, she stayed stressed out because now there's a divide with the kids. It's two brothers and a sister. So we had three other siblings. There was a divide. He was never speaking to his brother again. I'm never talking to my brother ever again in life. Never. He ends up coming home. When he finally gets out of jail, I just figured it was just one of those things to where it would be like, okay, it'll die over. Eventually the two of them will speak. They'll get back on speaking terms. But Curtis was adamant. I am never speaking to this dude in life. We've gotten many arguments over the years. We've had skirmishes. We've had, times to where we fought, but it was never really any blows thrown. It was more so, okay, we might wrestle. You might throw me up against the wall. I throw you up against the wall, something like that. But for you to actually put your hands on me, this is how Curtis feels. For you to actually put your hands on me, and you inflicted harm upon me, and I wasn't looking, I may as well be unalive to you. I don't exist to you ever again in life. The mother, she's trying to bring the two together. It wasn't going to happen. It's not like Curtis was beating down the door. I'm sorry, let's rewind that. It's not like Kurt was beating down the door to have a conversation with his brother Curtis. He felt the same way. About a year after he was out, Curtis started to have these spells, these dizzy spells. He would wake up, and instead of just jumping straight up, he would have to just sit on the side of the bed or on the side of the couch, whichever, one that he may have been sleeping on that particular night, day, what have you. And he was having these dizzy spells, and he just wasn't feeling right. He goes back to the doctor. They do the test, diagnosis, or what have you. They determine that he has vertigo. Now, I don't know a lot about vertigo, but what I do know is it's something that it doesn't allow you to have your proper balance. So I've seen people that have vertigo and they'll just fall. They'll just be walking and they'll just lose their balance and they'll fall. I've seen the strongest of people, man, that just lift so many weights in a weight pile or work on cars or just, you just see that they was a strong individual, but once that vertigo set in and they would just fall. It was determined that he had vertigo. But nobody else in my family's ever had vertigo, Doc. How do you... Basically, the doctor couldn't guarantee that this was the cause of it, but the doctor was basically saying that sometimes it can come from like a tragic blow to the head, and all he could think about was when his brother punched him in the back of his head and then hit him two more times, and then when he fell, the ottoman caught him from falling directly to the ground, but he hit his head on the side of the TV stand. In Curtis's mind, he felt like, man, my brother, man, he didn't cause me to have this vertigo. Never was the same. Ended up having to apply for disability. Thank goodness for him, he was ended up granted the disability, because in Kentucky, it's very difficult to do. They'll turn you down so many times. But he was granted the disability the first time. And he struggles often. Some days are good days, some days are not so good days. And he deals with this issue, as far as I may not have been perfectly fine prior to this happening, but I was a lot better than what I am now. Because you wanted to sneak me and sucker punch me. Look at the scenario. Look at the situation that I'm in now. Times we watch TV and we think that we see people fight and we think that, okay, it's just like TV. Like, fighting is a very dangerous, it's something that's very, very dangerous. I've heard of situations where two people got into a fight. One person fell, hit his head on the curb, hit his head on the table, and didn't make it. The other person, he's screaming all day long, "Oh man, I didn't mean to do it, man. We were just fighting and we manslaughter, reckless homicide." One case, it started off as murder, ended up getting broken down, but nevertheless, this individual ended up going to prison over a fight. Through it all, Curtis never said a word to the police about his twin brother. Blindside. I've ran into Curtis. I've ran into Kurt rather maybe about 2 times since this scenario took place. We don't really have much to say to each other. I see him. What up? What up? Keep it moving. I try my best not to get tied into family business and just that's a family thing. But I can't respect the fact that you put your hands on your brother like that. Man, we grown adults, bro. We are grown adults. It's not like we're teenagers. We're little kids anymore. When you get in a fight, man, you have to really know what you're doing because you can lose your life, especially in penitentiary. I always talk about how when you go to prison, hopefully you never have to experience that, but by chance that you do, there's no guns in prison. Yeah, you got knives, you got weapons, but it's not as easy to get as one would think. Yeah, we watch the movies, we see things on TV, but it's just not how it goes down like that. In prison, man, you got to know how to use these, man, because somebody's gonna try it. You can mind your business all day long. You can not bother nobody, not say nothing, not gamble, not mess with nobody's boyfriend in there, not owe anybody. But it's always gonna be somebody that tries you. Let me see what he's about. He don't say much. Don't seem do much. Don't seem rocking, hanging with a whole lot of people. Try him. See what he. Somebody's always gonna try you. It's sad, man. I talk to Curtis on a regular basis, and like I said, he has some good days, and he has some days that's not so good. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get him out of the house. Um, just doesn't want to be bothered with people. Sometimes he doesn't want to be around a lot of people. It's just a sad situation. I contemplated if I was even going to tell this story, and he gave me uh, his blessing to do so. Maybe I'll be able to bring him onto the show one day. But there's always a message. I try to find a message in every situation, scenario, and story that I tell. If you're having a problem with an individual, especially if you are related, siblings or your mother, your father, make it right. Even if you feel as though you're not wrong and they wronged you and make it right. This thing happened 10, 11 years ago. And to this day, these brothers, twin brothers, are still not speaking. Haven't seen each other, haven't said a word to each other in 10 or 11 years. Maybe a little bit longer. All over what? I don't necessarily want to say it was over the chest protector. It was just what made it just, hit the roof, hit the fan. Just over the years, there was a rivalry. There was a sibling rivalry. For whatever reason, Kurt was never exemplified. He never showed the love for his twin brother, Curtis, that Curtis showed for him. Make it right, man. If you got a problem with somebody, best friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the scenario may be, make it right, man. Be the bigger person. Pick up the phone. Because there's going to be a time that we're all leaving this earth. We all going away from here. As my granddad used to say, we all going away from here at some point. I fear and I feel as though that these two individuals would never speak again in life. That's just my take on it. I don't think the two are anxious to speak to each other. I don't think they're. I'm sure that Kurt probably feels some sort of shame, some sort of. But then again, maybe he don't. I'm not in his mind. I'm not in his head. Just imagine having a sibling, particularly a twin. Y'all haven't spoken in 10, 11, 12 years. Do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. Don't wait on this individual to, well, man, if you want to talk to me or she wants to talk to me, they can call me. Well, guess what? You can call them just as well. And if they don't receive you well, if they don't want to talk to you, if they don't really have an apology, if they don't really want to, guess what? You did your part. You did your part. You did what you had to do. And the rest is on them, man. Shout out to my dog Curtis, man. It's going to get better for you, man. Definitely gonna get better for you. Real Kids TV. Hopefully you liked the video. Feel free to comment, definitely share, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Be sure to hit that post notification. So anytime I bring you this action and this heat, guess what? You're amongst the first to receive. Real Kids TV.